Alright, so before I start this video off, make sure to click the link down below if you want to self-rate your face and just go through all of the instructions. And it doesn't matter if you're a male or female, make sure to take advantage of that. And yeah.
Don't touch your nose, fix your chin.
Dr. Raban is actually right here, and there is something that we've been constantly discussing at QOVES. If you look at this face, some people might argue that the nose looks disproportionately large or out of proportion, and this is the first thing that most people, including surgeons, would often correct, where the nose is reduced through a rhinoplasty. You can see that reducing the nose's size and projection doesn't actually solve the problem. This is a classic mistake made in the industry when professionals focus solely on a specific feature instead of having a holistic facial analysis approach like we do. Without trying to consider how this specific feature interacts with the other features of the face, you're going to tend to miss the mountains for the hills. In this specific example, the lack of facial proportion does not come from the nose, but rather from the recessed chin. And you can see that adjusting the chin instantly makes the face more harmonious and attractive without touching the nose. If you've ever decided to get a surgical or non-surgical piece of work done, make sure that the professional you're working with does take the time to analyze your face as a whole instead of just the feature itself, which is what most surgeons tend to do.
Alright, so for this video from the QOVES studio, little shorts that you saw. So how did I got to that short? You know, like anybody else who watches QOVES studio, I was just, scrolling through and I saw the video. Unfortunately, I highly disagreed with it because I feel like you're not really getting rid of the problem. You're just masking the problem. And I'm gonna show y'all guys why I feel like that. So the alteration that he did, a lower jaw extended forward to make the nose seem or to appear less prominent than what it is. I got 3 images that I'm gonna show y'all. The first one is the original image. The second one is QOVES Studio's alteration. And then the third one is gonna be my alteration. So I just look at it as if it's a patient that's coming in to a clinic and trying to get some things done to their face. And now I'm not saying that the doctor that y'all saw was wrong or anything like that, but I feel like any other doctors he did mention before would say to adjust the nose rather than adjusting other parts of the face, because if you do adjust the nose, then everything else will harmonize better. I'm not saying that his adjustment was wrong, but what I am saying is that, like I said again, you're only masking the problem at hand. So if we look at this original picture, and there's really 3 true main measurements. We can look at 4, which is the nasal projection, but I'm not gonna really waste my time. Just to let y'all know, her nasal projection is around 0.69, which is really high at the upper echelon. I don't think I ever rated a celebrity that's that high that I can think of. So yeah, that's just to give you an idea. So let's start with the total facial convexity. So her total facial convexity was 126. And then let's go to the alteration version for QOVES Studio. So this was the alteration for QOVES Studio. As you can see, the lower portion of her jaw extends a little bit forward. There's really no true difference. The only slight difference is a little bit of the lip measurements because as you extend the lower portion of the jaw, the bottom lip actually extends forward a little bit. She does pass majority of the lip measurements, but when it comes to the rickets, no, not the rickets, the Steiner S line, she didn't do too well on the Steiner S line because the lower lip has been brought forward a little bit too much. So that's the only thing I can say bad about it. So you might want to keep that in mind. But if we look at the total facial convexity, what we do get is 129. So before it was 126, now it's 129. So what's going on is it's widening up. So yes, the alteration did help a little bit, but it didn't solve the problem. So let's look at my alteration and I'm gonna show you guys what happened. All right, so this is my alteration. As you can see, the nose is less projected forward. The nose projection is at 0.63. So let's see the total facial convexity. And as you can see too, looking at this Steiner S line, the lower lip is in line with the upper lip. So I just wanted to point that out there real quick. So the total facial convexity now is at 133 degrees. So each time is pretty much getting wider. For my alteration, which is decreasing the nose, it actually increased the width, widening out the angle of the total facial convexity, which is what you want to do. You want to try to get at least close to, let's say 130 37, 38 degrees at least, which mine is probably the closest one to it. She does have a very rounded out profile, I must say. All right, next we're gonna look at the nasal-facial angle. All right, so the nasal-facial angle is just a way to see how far the nose drift away from the face, and this is going to be relative to the lower portion of your jaw. So your lower portion of your jaw is going to be the only main reference to it. So this is the original version of her, and it is at 40 degrees. So let's look at the QOVES Studio alteration with the Bimax. All right, so let's see what we get over here. And then I believe with this one, we got 38 degrees. So it was only a 2-degree drop. So yes, it did help to bring the lower portion of her jaw forward a bit, but it still didn't get rid of the problem because you're not within that ideal range. The ideal range is between 30 and 36. This right here is 38. So it's just 2 degrees outside. So let's look at my alteration, which is just decreasing the projection of the nose. All right, so with my alteration, we have 35 degrees, which is in the ideal proportions of it. I also do want to say that it might seem like she does have a jaw recession. I can tell you guys right now, she actually does not have any jaw recession. It actually stops slightly past the nasion, which is ideal. But from looking at it, it might seem like she does have jaw recession, which that's not the case. For the QOVES Studio, since she had a Bimax, that's what it seemed to be, the jaw actually kind of stopped somewhere a little bit ahead, like around right here. So this is a little bit forward, but yeah. All right, last but not least, we're gonna look at the nasal mental angle. And with the nasal mental angle, you want to get a range between 125 to 132. Slightly lower angles can be okay, around, let's say 123. Can be just fine as well. Preferably, you want to get slightly higher angles than that. You don't want it to be too flat nor too rounded. Now, this is the original one. And what we have is an angle that is 115, which is very, very narrow. That means that it is very rounded. Now, with this angle, it's kind of similar to the total facial convexity. The only difference is instead of going from the glabella, goes to the nasion, and it kind of like just crosses around the nasal bridge and goes straight to the nasion. With this angle, it also takes into account her facial convexity. Like I said again, her facial convexity is naturally rounded, but with his alteration, it should be a little bit more flatter. So let's take a look at that. All right, so let's see what angle we get, and it is around 119 degrees, which is slightly more flatter. That's still not within the ideal range. That's still more rounded out, and like I said again, is because of the nose. So yes, it does seem flatter, but it still doesn't solve the overall problem. Let's look at my alteration, and I'm gonna go all the way to the nasion, and we have is 121 degrees. Now 121 degrees isn't 123, but it is very, very close to it. All she had to do is decrease the projection of the nose, and that's it, because there's no point in increasing the lower portion of her jaw when there's nothing really wrong with the lower portion of her jaw. If she doesn't have any jaw recession, it doesn't really make any sense to touch the lower portions of her jaw. And if you do bring the lower portions of your jaw forward, it can mess up her lip measurements, because you're bringing that lower lip forward. When you bring the lower lip forward, the Steiner S line is not going to be ideal anymore, and it also can readjust other portions of her face. You don't want to make too big of a difference, or you know what I'm saying, because it can, you know, reshape other portions or change other angles as well. So you want to do the most. I understand that he doesn't want to think of it in a fixed location or a fixed point, which most doctors might look at it specifically as with the nose. I honestly believe that most doctors are doing the right thing by doing that, rather than looking at other portions of the face that doesn't really need to be changed. So I do disagree that little YouTube short that he made. Normally with Quo Studio, I typically agree with majority of the stuff, but I feel like I needed a video on this, and I'm gonna also ask y'all what y'all think before I even drop this video, so I can have a good idea how people think and the changes that they probably would make. So hopefully y'all enjoy. Hopefully y'all like I said again, make sure to click the link down in the description if you want to rate your own face. And yeah, I'm out. Peace.